Coffee's almost done. Yeah, man. 110. That's my prediction.
Dude, unreal. But yeah, you ready to kick this thing off?
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome everybody to a brand new week and a brand new episode of Wake and Jake. I am filling in for Jinzo today as he is headed back from a little DraftKings sport action. But happy to be here co-hosting today with Jake. We got an absolute gangbusters of a week, a ton of stuff to talk about. We're gonna kick it off with macro as per usual. I think top of mind has got to be Bitcoin at all-time high. Jake, how are we feeling?
Yeah, we're feeling great over here for sure. Yeah, Ross, thank you for filling in. Jinzo's was over down in Nashville with our own Relic, and also Lizard Capital was with him as well. But Relic was competing in the DraftKings World Championship live final. It's like $2.5 million to first place, only like a 200-person contest, and he had two entries in it. He had a nice little sweat going into the later games for NFL. Yesterday, he didn't get first, but I think he got top like 50 or so with one of them, and like 100 something with the other. So all you can ask for is a chance. So I'm sure they had a blast down there too in person. Um, yeah, Miss Jinzo, but glad you're filling in here, Ross. Yeah, man. Um, Bitcoin, we're sitting at 106.9 right now as we're recording this. Looks excellent. I just already making new all-time highs. This morning, or sorry, late last night, and now again, even beating those this morning. Looks like it got up to like 106.6 or so, 106.7 last night. Um, Already back above it, hopefully pushing farther and farther. But yeah, I mean, we saw as soon as it kind of bled out last night a bit from the pump, and then as soon as the stock market opened at 9:30 Eastern, it just was like straight up from there. If you look on the chart, it was just like immediate green candles right away, and I think there's that shows obviously a lot of like institutional buyers, a lot of TradFi buying. It was on the homepage of Bloomberg terminal today. It was all about like Bitcoin, and also there's this big news about obviously the MSTR Sailor's Company MicroStrategy got listed on the Nasdaq. Ross, I know you know a little bit more about that than me. Would you want to kind of dive in there?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, Friday after hours, MicroStrategy got added to the Nasdaq 100, and at least to my understanding, that just basically means that a lot of banks and ETF companies have to rebalance their holdings to buy more of it to basically include it in this basket that is the Nasdaq 100. So we saw something pretty similar last week or 2 weeks ago. Palantir got added to the S&P 500. We saw rebalancing, and Palantir was up like 30% over 2 weeks. So with MicroStrategy, it seems to be a similar play here this morning. We kind of had a feeling since the market was closed when that announcement came through that Monday was just going to be a bunch of buying pressure. And sure enough, I mean, it's just going crazy. And for those of you who are maybe a little less familiar with MicroStrategy, you have this guy, Michael Saylor, who is running quite possibly the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world. And I mean that with all due respect, but it is an insane business model. They basically buy a bunch of Bitcoin, take out loans, and use Bitcoin as collateral. And then with those loans, they, you guessed it, buy more Bitcoin. So with this news of it getting added, there's a ton of pressure on MicroStrategy buying. That means they're going to be buying more Bitcoin. That means other people are going to be buying more Bitcoin. So, I mean, the match has been lit, and they're getting closer and closer to that pile of gas. It's just really going crazy today.
Yeah, really cool to see. I think they're also kind of like just along with the MSCR, like think they understand that Sailor's just going to use that to buy more Bitcoin, so they're front running him on the Bitcoin as well. Is kind of my interpretation. Would you say something similar?
Yeah, I totally would. And, we're really starting to get into this narrative of a world currency. We obviously have just a couple more months until Donald Trump officially takes office. We already know that he's appointed, some people who are really pro crypto, and he's been very public about his pro crypto stance. So you have this on the backdrop, just people front running this trade and knowing that everything is kind of leveraged with MicroStrategy leading the way and Bitcoin leading the way. The two can pretty much carry one another. But I do think whenever the time comes that the United States adopts that strategic Bitcoin reserve, it's really going to pressure the rest of the world to then start buying Bitcoin. And you're probably going to see a bit of a Bitcoin arms race. At least that's kind of the thesis and the narrative that's been going on. And as Bitcoin continues to reach more and more highs, I feel like more people are going to continue to speculate and try to front run that strategic reserve announcement. So I think you have a lot of bullish catalysts all kind of converging and coming together here. And yeah, I mean, I really think it's an exciting time to be a participant.
Yeah, we've certainly talked about it on previous shows. But I feel like it's probably a good time to reiterate. Like as you were saying too, I just think if that Bitcoin strategic reserve does go through, I think it's like probably the most like insanely bullish thing that's ever happened for Bitcoin. Um, it just gives not only like is it like billions of like buying pressure from the U.S. government, but it gives legitimacy to the asset for every other government in the world, every other fund in the world, every companies balance sheet doesn't really matter whatever it is. It gives just legitimacy to own Bitcoin as, or at least a percentage of Bitcoin, as part of like your normal portfolio um, allocation, right? At least like some percentage, and that just creates such a huge buy pressure when there's obviously just a limited supply of Bitcoin out there. And like you said, it's basically an arms race of people who want to get in because they're going to want to front run the government as well. So I think we're already seeing like the anticipation of that. I think we'll see a pretty huge acceleration once it's official, which I think that's kind of like the uncertainty here is will Trump actually go through with it? He obviously said he's going to, and he has the means to do so. He has, a Republican House or Republican Congress to help him with it as well. And I saw rumors actually, and there's also like the risk of a delay if it was something he is going to do, but it doesn't happen for a while. Then we could see maybe a pullback from there too if it isn't immediately implemented. I actually did see some rumors though. I don't know how legitimate the sources were. It was like some accounts, but I don't there wasn't really anyone that I like hugely respect or follow. But there were rumors that he was going to do it day one, um, and start the process going forward, which would be pretty crazy. I mean, all rhetoric from the Trump administration and campaign and everything has been that they're going to be very Bitcoin forward and pro Bitcoin and innovation with that. So it certainly seems like it's going to happen. But I think there's probably a lot of people just on the sidelines right now waiting as well. A lot of big institutions, a lot of countries waiting to see if it actually does go through, and then once that happens, there'll be a pretty huge acceleration point there. I think it can get like wild, wild. Honestly, like I think Bitcoin can easily more than double from here if that does happen. And a lot more. I mean, like Kobe, for instance, is like one of the best traders out there. He even thinks like it could get to like $1 million, which would be wild. Obviously, but yeah, it's a lot of bullish stuff ahead. Bitcoin is still pushing higher as we're recording the show. A couple other takes I wanted to share. Obviously, not a macro expert myself, but I like to follow people who I know are, not just think are, but I should say know are because I've been following them for years now. Don, obviously, I would reference him like every show because I think he's easily the most accurate. Um, predictions, and he kind of gives the real takes as well. But he has recently tweeted, I think yesterday, maybe it was last, or maybe it was earlier this morning or whatever. But he's saying basically everything reminds him right now of the 2017 cycle, um, and it was very similar if you look at um, the 100K break to the 10K break, which was the 2017 cycle when Bitcoin finally hit 10K. It was like basically the same thing where it ran up initially like during that day, and then everything like crazy nuked because people were over leveraged and there was a ton of um there's a ton of people trying to long and be degenerate with it once it broke. And we saw that happen. Same thing with 100K. Like we nuked down to like 90K or whatever. Um, and there's also some pretty huge swings the following couple days as well. And like same thing happened 2017. And also along with that, he's saying he thinks this tweet that I just shared in voice hangout chat, but Bitcoin doubled back then, but alts kind of got nuked at the same time, so it didn't really carry alts up at the same time. They fell by 30 to 80% is what he's saying. After then after Bitcoin settled, they followed and they did really well. But in the meantime, there could be this liquidity suck where all attention is on Bitcoin, especially with a huge bullish catalyst only really being for Bitcoin with that strategic reserve. Um, and that's obviously doesn't mean like every single alt. There probably will be a select few that do well, um, but there could be. I would just warn like just because Bitcoin goes crazy doesn't mean all of your altcoins are going to go crazy too. There could be some pain there in the meantime.
Stop it.
Yeah, it's a great breakdown, Jake. And I mean, to your point with just the volatility that we're probably going to be seeing, we saw a lot of that when Bitcoin first broke 100K. It went below it, and a bunch of people got liquidated. And it's really exciting that these huge players are entering the games and bringing our bags to new all-time highs. But it is an interesting dynamic when you have companies like BlackRock and MicroStrategy becoming some of the largest holders, where they can act as just these crazy forces of movement in the markets. And if you look at TradFi with stocks all the time, there's a lot of trades that are designed to shake people out, trap people on the wrong side of the trade. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of volatility. I also wouldn't be surprised if we go way higher. And I mean, I think if you zoom out, it's just destined to be higher for Bitcoin. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to have some bumps along the way. So I really wouldn't be surprised if we see some liquidation events happen, both to the upside, the downside. Now
Yeah,
that, again, we just have these big banks, they would love to shake people out, bring Bitcoin temporarily lower, and then just buy even more of the supply. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more whale games as we go along here. But that is a great shout out with the alt carry trade, because it's not always just as proportional. But speaking of alts, what do you think of the other major coins here that aren't quite alts? I'm thinking like Ethereum and Solana.
yeah.
Definitely interested on your take with Bitcoin specifically, because we already see ETH ETFs. Like, what do you think that means for Ethereum?
Yeah. One more quick thing on Bitcoin before we transition. I wanted to mention actually two things actually. One, I wanted to share the Kobe tweet. I shared it yesterday again, but he tweeted this. I think it was last night. He said another Bitcoin all-time high in the not too distant future. We will see one every single day for weeks at a time. So he's obviously very very bullish. So that's great to see. And then another thing I wanted to share was kind of in line with the fact that how we were talking about all the liquidations right at 100K, and there's a ton of people using leverage, and they obviously got pretty wiped in that with a crazy amount of volatility. um, there's things you can look at to kind of monitor, and like a lot of good traders monitor stuff like open interest, which is just the total amount of leverage that is open in the market at one time, and then also funding rate, which is like how much you pay to be long or get paid to be long or short. Basically, the balance between longs and shorts. And right now, open interest is growing, but funding rate is not for the long side of Bitcoin. It's still like it's still like really low, actually, like way, way lower than what it was at the 100K. So that means a lot of people um, are putting on or people are putting on more and more leverage, but a lot of it's on the short side. So right now, so there actually could be more room up. The what's pushing us up right now is actually spot buying, which is pretty healthy. People are just buying straight up Bitcoin instead of leverage longing it. So
Oh, wow.
we could even squeeze higher. Um, Here with all the leverage being put on, a good amount of it is actually on the short side of things. So I think that's interesting to look at. versus when we were crossing 100K. It was it was pretty unanimously to the long side at that time, and that's where we saw the big liquidations cascade down on that candle. And this time, I could honestly see it being the other way, which would be pretty great. But just something to monitor.
Whew. You're getting me excited here talking about some shorts getting squeezed out, dude. I love it. I mean, it's crazy that this is all spot, so like, or not all, but a significant portion to your point. So that is super healthy and love to see it. But definitely not what I expected. I thought for sure people would be bulling up and leveraging long. So great insight there. And yeah, I mean, let's squeeze those shorts, baby.
Yeah, I'll share. This is a good site to watch it. I think there's a couple others out there as well, but Coin Analyze, you can look at funding rate as well as open interest to kind of, and also shows like long short ratio liquidations, that kind of stuff. That's a good one to monitor for
Appreciate
this.
Appreciate it. But yeah, we definitely have a pretty lengthy schedule here. So if you have any other points on Bitcoin, definitely want to get to them. But if not, let's definitely move over to the next market segment of Ethereum. Bitcoin's up a little over 2% today. Ethereum about one. I think to your point of just carry trades and people trying to speculate on other currencies, ETH has definitely been up there. Obviously, we got a big resurgence of base that's kind of been teased for a while now that people are going to have this base summer or base season. So, what are your thoughts with ETH, especially with Bitcoin getting all this attention lately?
Yeah. Generally, I think ETH will have its day for sure. During this cycle, I don't think it's going to be until after Bitcoin really does its thing, though. It's just like ETH is such a big asset. It kind of needs a lot of attention to pump, and if all the attention's on and liquidity's on Bitcoin, ETH, I could see falling behind from that regard. But once that's kind of how I'm seeing right now is once Bitcoin really makes its big move, then ETH can have its time. And I do like ETH actually more than Sol probably. At this point, from what I'm seeing, I mean, Sol is just kind of already. It's almost like Sol already had its trade. It already went from like $10 to $250 or whatever, 25x, if not more, from the bottom. So I know a lot of people are bullish on Sol, and I still am bullish on the Sol ecosystem. But I mean, if you think about how much it's already ripped, like it's already gone pretty crazy this cycle. Um, and there's a lot of unlocks coming up for Sol as well, and um, you were seeing kind of like a shift as well and attention with, like you said, more people moving to base, people moving to Hype Chain, which is on Arbitrum Bridge. These are all like backed by ETH. ETH NFTs ripping, so the attention is shifting away from the Sol ecosystem, as well as the fact that the new people are getting into, they're not buying the Sol memes, which has been like the main Sol bull case. They're buying like Dino coins like XRP, and they're buying like Chainlink and stuff of that nature. And um, so yeah, I'm kind of more bullish ETH than Sol, but I still think like in general, Bitcoin leads the way here for a while, and probably both of those underperform. Here's a tweet just like less than an hour ago from Don saying he thinks ETH is later in the cycle. Even though he owns like a big bag of ETH, he still thinks Bitcoin kind of goes first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not surprised, and I certainly think just ETH specifically, since it already has that ETF approved, you're going to start seeing a lot more inflows. And we talked about it before, and you've definitely talked about it on the show, but I think it gets to a point where there is sort of that unit bias. So people who are priced out and can't afford a whole Bitcoin, or don't really want to buy something that's already moved, you know, 5x since last year. ETH is really only up what, two and a half since last year, with its low of like 1,200, or maybe like 1,600 on average. So it definitely has a long way to go, and I feel like there is sort of that pressure that ETH can have to catch up to Bitcoin, and there's certainly a lot of people who want to get into it. So I like what you're sharing here with Don's take that that's going to be later in the cycle. But particularly just with those ETF inflows, I could certainly see that catching up at some point as more people begin to add that in part as part of their traditional investment portfolio.
Yeah, and it actually has. I'll say it has picked up recently, so that's a good thing for ETH. Has that going for it. There was I mean, quite a long lull since when the ETFs got implemented. They had the grayscale people that were selling off as well. That was kind of bringing it down. But recently, just in the past like few weeks, the inflows ETF for ETH has picked up quite a bit. Um, here's a here's a website where you can kind of track that a bit, but I'll also share a quick screenshot here in voice hangout chat as well, where you can pretty easily see uh, the trend moving up quite significantly over the past month or so from where it was for this ETF inflow. So that's really good as well. I think that could be the case. The ETH does run alongside Bitcoin if that doesn't indeed happen. I'm not saying like for sure Bitcoin's only going to run and nothing else. I think this is kind of like the bull case for ETH running alongside it, is that there is this institutional access to ETH as well, and it is picking up.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very interesting because in 2021, when things ran, you saw crypto as a whole just explode, right? We saw NFTs, but alongside NFTs, you saw Ethereum going up. We saw a lot of altcoins going along with it. And I do think just overall, we have a very strong market right now. Like traditional finance is very strong, crypto is very strong. So it's going to be interesting to see the dynamics at play as money rotates between the space. But we've talked about it so much in crypto history of like, oh, once the normies get here and once the normies get in, they're making it one, a lot easier for normies to get in, but two, I feel like the pressure has never been higher for normies to FOMO and get into crypto. It just seems like everything's moving straight up. I'm imagining people have been making a lot of money in normal stocks, or just, most investments over the last month since November have really just been going nuclear. So I feel like there's just a lot of extra cash to play with. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more and more entry and onflows into crypto, and that Ethereum graph sums it up perfectly, right? Just so many inflows, and it really gets you excited for Christmas there, just with the red to green.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I wanted to open it up as well. I know we haven't said anything yet, but you guys are certainly welcome to join us in this chat. If anyone has anything, while we're on the topic of Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, whatever macro, feel free to hop in. I know Aslo, I think you said you had a take here.
Yeah. GM guys, can you hear me? Is audio okay today?
Yeah, GM.
Cool. Welcome back, Jake. Hope your honeymoon was good, by the way.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
You picked the perfect week for it. It looks like. So yeah, I saw your Don Alt post. I like Don Alt also, by the way. I appreciate you having shared him originally, and I always follow his stuff, and I have a couple other of my people. And I guess I'll give like my line of logic here, which is just one take, right? It's a little bit different than what he has. It's a little bit different than some other stuff, but here's my line of logic. My line of logic is, from like the top-down perspective, biggest picture. Number one is that the macro still looks good. We all know that's the case, right? Number two is the main thing I'm looking for personally is this week we have FOMC, and I mean we want to look for liquidity specifically, like balance sheet expansion, which we haven't had much of yet, but I think is probably going to be coming. That would certainly help us as well. And then then me personally, like the only thing that really matters to me, obviously BTC matters a lot, but I'm looking at ETH for everything. And I think the one thing I agree with Donald's endpoint, but the thing that I find interesting is that the inflows are huge into ETH, into the ETH ETFs, right? They're increasing by the day. People have talked about it replicating kind of the BTC pathway. But the one thing that's like really clear is that even these like really good quants, like nobody's getting the timing right. They're like, oh, it's going to be now, and it's not now, and it's going to be now. So the only thing we know is that we don't know when exactly it's going to start going. But I think everyone's quite confident that it is going to start going. It's just a question of when. So I don't think it's going to be late, to be honest with you. I'm looking at ETH to carry the market. And so once ETH starts going, I think everything's going to go with it, which is not rocket science, of course. And for that reason, even though Donald is saying, things may bleed out a little bit in the short term, maybe not, I'm not sure. But as a more spot holder on my side, I'm not going to try to time that in a good macro, to be honest with you, because ETH could go at any point. The chart looks good, so on and so forth, and that's how I'm thinking about it. Obviously, it's very different if it's leverage, and you play a lot of leverage, which I don't do a lot of. but that's how I kind of see the market, I would say. So to me, ETH is everything for the market, in my opinion.
Uh, yeah, I think that's a good take. I think it's actually more similar to Don's take than what you might realize. I follow Don really closely, and ETH is like by far his biggest spot position that he has, and that's kind of his take. Is that yeah, it might be delayed or it might be sometime, but he thinks just at some point ETH is gonna rip a bunch, so he's not gonna try and like overtrade it. He's just gonna hold and wait for it. Um, so he's pretty in line with you there, I would say. I think he just is leaning farther away right now. I did want to ask real quick about the FOMC. I forgot to mention that. You talked about balance sheet expansion. Are you essentially saying expectation of money printer? I'm not as like tuned into
Yeah,
the TradFi.
yeah, I'm hoping that, and sometimes they signal it, even if it doesn't come right now. You'll see some light talk about it. And obviously that would be a great case. There's two other areas though of like money printing that exists, right? One is airdrops, right? We see what happens when airdrops hit, right? And the other one is also in crypto. Like fuck, Tether's been printing money. I don't know if you guys have realized, but Tether prints like large amounts of money and then injects it in, and so on and so forth. But obviously the real one we want is M2 money supply and printing like we had a few years ago. That would be great. So I don't know if we're going to get a signal towards it this week, maybe in January, and hopefully that happens. So yeah, that's what I was referring to. Did that answer your question, Jake? 'Cause I had one other comment actually that I think is worth calling out.
Yeah, yeah.
The one other comment that I was going to say is in like scenarios a little bit too, which is obviously like again, this is just my take, one person, but um obviously the macro looks very good right now, and we're talking about strategic reserve and all those kinds of things. In my model, which is again just personal, my model, I'm viewing that strategic reserve arms race as like the really very positive case, to be honest with you, and not the base case. I'm viewing the base case as we have just another bull cycle. Like that's my base case. The bad case is we have another version of what we had 10 months ago, 11 months ago, where it was a short blip and then it, subsides. The really good case is that, and I definitely agree. If we get the really good case, which I think is one of two things, it's either the strategic reserve and or the no tax on capital gains, or both would be ridiculous. Yeah, then I think all bets are off at that point. But it's definitely not for me my base case, at least.
Awesome. Appreciate the insight as always, Aslo.
Oh, sorry.
Cool. Yeah, we can move on to more of the degen stuff.
Wait, Jake, let me real quick just to keep us on schedule here. Any thoughts on
Yeah.
XRP and Ripple? I know it's been showing a lot of strength in the market. Not sure if there's more you wanted to touch on there, but just wanted to bring that up before moving on to
Oh
the
yeah,
fun
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Just real quick. I just want to share again, like Don's, and also not just Don, but I follow Web3 Quant pretty closely too, and he's very bullish as well on XRP. It's showing a lot of strength. I know I said alts, might underperform, but it doesn't seem like XRP is going to be the one in that basket. It had a huge spike just earlier today, this morning. But he's basically saying, above the range resistance here at like 2.65 or so, like a close above that would he thinks it could realistically like double from there. So I would say I don't know if this huge XRP run is done anytime soon. We also saw like there's a lot of people in like the influencing the Trump organization who are like big XRP people. I think it was it was either the SEC chair or like the crypto czar. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them is like a huge like XRP bull. They like retweeted something that said like XRP to $20 or something like that. Like, I'd have to find the post, but yeah, hilarious. But yeah, I think there's a lot of positives there for XRP in the near future. Yeah, that's all I really want to share on that.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. Definitely good to keep an eye on. And I mean, definitely the people who are in his administration who have these bags, pretty huge. I know there's also been some chatter just in voice hangout chat in the crypto thread recently of Link. I know that Trump's wallet has gotten like a lot of link either purchased or sent to it. So I know people have very similar sentiment on Chainlink, which was beaten up for a long time, but is now just coming back to full force. So I think that's going to be interesting. But let's get into the fun stuff. It's the top of everybody's mind. I see some penguins in the audience, so we got to give them something to waddle about. Jake, are NFTs back? And what is going to happen with Pengu tomorrow?
Yeah, man. NFTs are ripping across the board. If you've been around, I mean, in NBA HQ, you've certainly seen people posting all about it, especially in the last couple days. Penguins up to a 30 ETH floor now. They actually pulled back. I think they got to like 36 or 37 or so. Little pudgies in like 3.5. But yeah, across the board, I mean, Penguins up 36% on the week. Pudgy's up 45. Izuki up 55. Cool Cats up over almost 100% after the Gary V buy, which we can get into as well. And then yeah, all these other like sub collections, smaller ones, up as well, pretty much across the board. So really cool to see. We've been talking about NFT stuff quite a bit in the past few weeks as the trend has been up. Just the general case that I've been putting out is that once people like NFTs are more of a later cycle thing. Once people have once people have made money on other stuff on coins, once on majors, Bitcoin, Sol, whatever. Just in general, like the need to like flex socially is one of the big use cases of NFTs. Using it as your PFP, obviously. And we saw that last cycle as well, where NFTs were really ripping the most late in the cycle, even after like Bitcoin had topped. NFTs didn't even have like its biggest parabolic run until I would say after that, like January 2022 or so. And I think it's kind of playing out more as we're getting later into the cycle, and as Sol, as we mentioned, had already like 25x. Bitcoin's gone. I don't know, like 4 or 5x from now. I can't remember what the lows were. So yeah, we're seeing people allocate more to the NFT things as price has been depressed, and obviously there's still quite a bit of mind share there, especially with Pudgies, releasing these toys, as well as I think they have a game or something, or like a Pudgy universe or something that they're doing. Um, but some pretty nice mainstream adoption. Like they're becoming real companies now with real products outside of NFTs, and they're kind of obviously gaining, or at least attempting to gain mindshare in more of the traditional world, normie world, as we would say. So I think we're seeing stuff reprice a bit um, as people have a little bit more to spend now on these more speculative assets. And with liquidity so low for NFTs, like obviously supply is pretty limited, and price can go up quite a bit. And usually, when there's a trend like that, if people see price going up, they want to buy because they don't want to miss out on the train. It can become kind of a snowball effect with these things. We certainly saw that plenty last cycle with how crazy some of the like mints went up incredibly fast. And I certainly think we could see that again as people are more flush with cash from a lot of the different things that have happened, like hype airdrop, and now this upcoming Pudgy airdrop. Should be interesting. Yeah, comes out tomorrow. Here's Floppa shared a bit of the tokenomics earlier. Here, I'll repost it in voice hangout chat. But yeah, they're doing they're actually releasing 70% of max supply um on TG, which is a huge amount for coins these days. I mean, hype was like a very big one, and that was 33% of circulating, and this is more than double that. So, I mean, it could certainly be a big number initially. We'll see how the market plays it. That's obviously introduces a lot of sell pressure if a lot more tokens are on the market. It seems like a pretty wide distribution plan as they're giving it to other communities. They're giving it to all their different token holders and all their, I'm pretty sure, like people who like scanned the toys that they bought from Walmart or whatever. So it seems pretty exciting. It seems pretty exciting. Yeah, I don't have any immediate takes right now. I'll just pause for a second to catch my breath.
Dude, yeah, take a break there, drink some coffee. There's a lot to be excited and a lot to talk through here, but definitely have just seen the sentiment of NFTs are back in the price action. And, saw some good conversation in voice hangout chat last night, whether this was a cute trade and, we're seeing a lot of collections like Sappy Steels and some other cute projects pump. I think most notably we're seeing Azuki. And I know that there's sort of different takes. Some people think NFTs are just straight up back and we should be looking for new projects. Some people are of the belief that this is a airdrop trade and it's just really about the token. And I think there's probably truth is somewhere in the middle there, right? I definitely think we have to pay attention to Hyperliquid, which we'll certainly talk about pretty shortly here. But that one just, I think, caused complete FOMO with everyone who missed out on millions of dollars via airdrop. Obviously, Magic Eden was a pretty good cook for a lot of people, maybe not for some others, but we're definitely getting back into airdrop season as well. So the announcement of Pengu just really created this beautiful trade for people who got involved in it. And I think tomorrow there's going to be a really big, outcome of whatever happens with people who bought Pudgies and exist in this ecosystem. So I think there's sort of a couple of outcomes, at least in my mind. I think no matter what happens, a stimmy is amazing for the entire ecosystem, right? It's brand new money that's being created. A lot of that money is going to go back into the various things that people are interested in right now. So I'm sure we're going to see some of that go to shitcoin, some of that go into Bitcoin, some of that stuff go into NFTs. So a lot of that money is going to be going around. I definitely think specifically as it pertains to NFTs, the proof is really going to be that price action with Pengu and then the price action with Pudgies after the drop. I think the real question is just for people who are buying right now at the top, are they still going to be profitable? If it's something like Bored Ape where, holders got airdropped like 200K, the floor dips and then comes back up to all-time highs, I just don't see a scenario where that's not giga bullish for NFTs as a whole. If it's a scenario where there's an airdrop that comes in lighter than expected, and then Pudgies also drop 10 or 15 ETH, again, I still think we're going to see a stimmy, and that's going to go raise things in the ecosystem. But that might bring a little bit of some of these projects we've seen run up, like Doodles and Azuki, down a little bit. So I think people's expectations are really, really hot and really, really heavy right now, just with Pudgy's going on this historic tear. But tomorrow is going to be where we find out what actually happened. So definitely, I think it's a home run for people who got in sub like 25 ETH. I think there's a really good chance they just walk away with a bunch of cash. But it'll really be interesting to see what that airdrop is.
Yeah, I just shared a table to kind of get a price. I'm pretty sure this is about right, but um 5 billion is kind of like the number that I've seen from a lot of people. Is about like an average or at least like a decent bull case estimate of where it would end up at, and that would give a Pudgy holder $117,000 worth of an airdrop. A little Pudgy would be, a tenth of that, 11,700. If it comes in at like a billion or so, that would give Pudgy holder like 23K or so. I think that would be underwhelming based on how much things have ripped up since announcement of this. I think people certainly expect at least a couple billion. You can certainly look at other coins to get maybe a rough estimate. Ape, for example, would probably be like the number one coin that would make sense to look at, considering the similarities there. Ape right now is at 1.5 billion FTV for comparison. So people expecting quite a bit higher for Penguin, which I think is interesting. I do think Penguins have a bit more mind share um, among like traditional like CT people, not like apes are more like NFT focus, whereas I feel like there's a lot of people who just have like a Penguin as their PFP because they think it's cool, but they like own like a big DeFi protocol or something, and so I think there's a little bit more mind share and room for growth and probably positive sentiment, I would say, around around Penguins. But yeah, in terms of like liquidity stuff, I agree. I think this is certainly bullish for the rest of the NFT ecosystem, especially ETH NFTs, I'd say like Izuki is probably like the main one that I think it's bullish for, considering everyone knows they're gonna drop their anime token. So if penguins come out and this is like a 106 figure airdrop for penguins, I think Izuki's probably fly. I would expect, given as like the catch up trade. Um, expectation where people see that and they obviously don't want to miss out on the next one. I think that's kind of like the obvious next one. And Zuki's already have certainly repriced quite a bit over the past week or two. But I could see it going higher if the penguin is a decent amount. And I would also say it's interesting that it's dropping on Sol. Um, as far as the token goes, given obviously that the collection's on ETH. Um, I think that might mean that Soul memes, which have already kind of been getting hit quite a bit, get hit even more, especially like the lower to mid cap stuff. Um, I just think like people are gonna want to open up liquidity and play Penguin instead. Um, so I would say that's there might be, if you do like have some Soul memes that you're long term bullish on, might be a good entry into those around Penguin airdrop as liquidity, transfers from that over there. But in general, I also think like I don't think that harms the ability for ETH NFTs to rip after this. I think plenty of people by now are used to like bridging from Sol to ETH and um, are used to like transferring those funds. And I don't think like just the fact that it's on Sol isn't gonna like is gonna like harm the liquidity flow from Sol to ETH. I feel like people for the most part are pretty adept at bridging over.
Yeah, well said, Jake. And I mean, we're seeing the dynamic play out right now, exactly as you said, of some of this liquidity being sucked away from Sol memes. You'll notice a lot of major coins that have been on a tear over the past weeks and months are starting to pull back 20, 30+% today, and I think started dripping over the weekend. But it is a pretty hot take that a lot of that liquidity is going to be leaving further. I'd say I'm personally somewhere in the middle. I think this is the liquidity extraction as people gear up for it. But I think looking at Magic Eden, which is not the exact same thing because I don't think they have as much mind share as Pudgy's, which is just, such a good job of building IP, very applicable to anybody, crypto, maxi, or not. But I do think with Pengu, a lot of people will be trying to race to sell that airdrop, especially if Pudgy comes in at these high valuations that they're talking about. I do definitely think they're going to be able to surpass Bored Ape Yacht Club, at least now, just that the market is so hot and it seems like everyone has these expectations. But it'll be interesting to see because I think historically the airdrops that cook the hardest are the ones where people aren't really looking. So we see that with stuff like Hyperliquid, where there weren't a lot of wallets involved and they absolutely cooked. We saw stuff like that with Jito earlier on during the Solana airdrop saga. And then when you had stuff like Drift and other, ecosystems where people were just mass going over there to farm it, it didn't come in as hot as expectations had. So it'll really be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm personally of the mindset that will probably come in really hot at launch and then cool off a little bit. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of dip buyings with Pengu. I also am sure that Luca Nets has some stuff planned. I know he's providing a lot of liquidity for the token, but it's going to be crazy, right? There's literally going to be like $1 billion+ of actual token drop to holders. So I think just as people try to sell that, we're going to see a very volatile Pengu chart, and I'd imagine at some point, with it already being on Solana, that's going to rotate back into Sol. So love your sentiment of good opportunity to buy some dips. I know that's personally how I'm trying to play this, but it's going to be really interesting to see. And just to echo your sentiment earlier, Jake, if anyone in here wants to hop in and talk about Pengu, feel free. I'm looking at a particularly handsome penguin with a Viking hat on, and no pressure, Silva, because I know I always just pressure you to get up on these shows, but I'm just curious from the perspective of a Pudgy holder, and could be anyone who owns Pudgies or little Pudgies in the crowd. How you feeling? Tomorrow's going to be a pretty momentous day.
We so chilled. We feel good.
Hmm.
I love it, Ranch. You have a Pudgy, if you don't mind me asking?
I have a Pudgy. I have a little. I have I think some Rogs, but I don't know. I still think just holding through all of this at this point in the market is not the dumbest thing, but I like to do dumb things, so it might be.
I definitely think it's going to be a cook however it plays out. I mean, I'm personally expecting the airdrop to come in at the baseline good. Like, even if it comes in lighter than expected, I'd imagine Pudgies get like 50K a piece probably. I think that's on the low end. I could definitely see it being higher, especially for early claimers. But yeah, is any part of you looking to like rotate out of them and just get the ride of the floor price and skip the airdrop, or you think you're just going full airdrop ahead?
I kind of want the airdrop, to tell you the truth. I don't know why, but like, didn't apes come out at like 1 and then to 4 billion? Like, this is a much higher market cap type of time. They're going to come out at 5. I don't know if they're going to go to 50, but for like the initial pump, I'm just seeing, I don't know why. I feel like it could be at least above 5 billion since everybody's talking like that.
I like it. I like it. I think we could see something like that too, especially with Bitcoin ripping right now. Like there's a lot of risk on in the market. It's like a pretty awesome time to launch a token at the moment. It's going to be a big amount too. I mean, 70% unlocked is pretty crazy. Circulating supply, that's going to be a lot of liquidity that comes into the market. So I'm excited for that in general. I think that's going to pump a lot of stuff across the board in NFT land. So I think it's a fun time to own NFTs again.
Dude, it really will be. So in the topic of NFTs, Jake, I know we already briefly touched on Azuki, and it's pretty hot, especially with them having an anime token. So it can follow. One, Azuki was always just a very loved NFT, obviously very controversial, but I think widely accepted as some of the best NFT art we've ever seen. Um, what are your thoughts on Azuki following? I mean, I definitely think if Pudgy's print, that's like a slam dunk buy. I would imagine the floor could go to 20 ETH if Pudgy holders get printed, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I certainly don't think Izuki is like at the level of Pudgy. But with the fact that there's going to be a lot more liquidity on the market for obviously people who own NFTs, because it'll be Pudgy holders that have that make that money. I can certainly see like the next allocation being Izuki. It seems pretty obvious to me, just given like that's the next big collection that is launching its own token and it has its own product aimed at a very bigger like a lot bigger audience in anime.com and their anime series and all that. So it's certainly to me, I think Kazuki's could like at least double from this point. I don't know about immediately, but if everything else, if the floor of like everything else rises with this, then I think Azuki could be one of the leaders there for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, it's nice to see that there's been some really expensive NFT sales in Pudgies and now Azuki. I feel like usually when you see rare sales of a collection, it just bodes well for that entire ecosystem. So notably, I know there was a 100 ETH Pudgy sale, I want to say 2 days ago. It was a crystal Pudgy or ice. I'm not sure what the terminology is for that, but a nice sparkly blue penguin. And then yesterday there was a Spirit Azuki that sold for 93 or 94 ETH. So that's really exciting. Um, Interesting trade in the Azuki ecosystem in my mind is the elemental beans. Just throwing it way back to the Bored Ape serums. Those just got crazy reaches, always retained the floor higher than the floor of mutants. And some of the mega mutants just went for like millions of dollars. So just looking over at the Azuki beans, there's only, I think, 250 ish of the tier 4, which is the rarest tier, Azuki Elemental, and have started to see some rare sales on Azuki as well as Elementals. So I'm personally intrigued by the beans. I'm probably just going to wait for Pudgies to airdrop and see how that plays out. But again, if it prints massively, I'm going to be rushing to buy some beans over there as well as some Elementals because I think those will have some good return. All right. Oh, go ahead, Jake.
No, I was gonna respond to Ryan here. Yes, what's an NFT that is just so low that but has a potential to see a big rise? Purely speculation. I mean, bottom of the barrel. I don't know. I feel like I would think back to like I actually did sweep some cool pets just as like a cool cats beta or whatever with I think those are only 0.06 right now floor. So I mean, maybe something like that is like a beta of like a of one of the bigger popular collections from last cycle. I could see like a lot of that stuff. If penguins rise, if apes rise, if Azuki rises, I can see people just wanting to go further down the chain and pumping stuff that was hot last cycle. So maybe something like that. I don't know, maybe like Nakamigos, which is like point 0.2 right now, and they released a Bitcoin ordinal collection that is apparently doing really well too. Yeah, I mean maybe stuff like that. I don't know. Ranga 0.23. I'm like just scrolling down right now looking at this different stuff.
I
Um,
know
yeah,
people are saying World of Women and World of Women Galaxy. If you're looking, I mean,
yeah.
World of Women Galaxy was like 2 ETH at launch, and now it's 0.05 or 0.06. But I'm glad you brought up cool cats and cool pets because last night Gary V, big return to the space, huh? Out of nowhere, he posted a photo of him buying a cool cat, and it just absolutely ripped floors from I want to say like zero point 0.5 or zero point 0.6 to 1.8. I want to say was the peak last night, and they settled at about 1.1. But absolute cook for people who responded early. And yeah, Gary was just a notable influencer at the time. It used to be just follow Gary V into anything he bought, and it would just explode. So, any thoughts on Gary being back, Jake?
Yeah, it's great to see. It's kind. I mean, it's kind of like what the hell, dude? You like were huge into NFTs, and now you come back when it's like the bull again. So certainly it seems like he's just like picking the ideal time, not really riding with the community during the storm. So I don't love that part of it. But I do love the fact that he obviously has a lot of influence in the normie world. He was one of the big ones, obviously, to start the NFT cycle. Convincing a lot of his big time celebrity and whale friends to buy up like punks and stuff. So if he's back into it, hopefully he can influence a lot of normies to get back into it, and that can lead to a bit of a snowball effect. I think is what people are hoping for. That's certainly what I'm hoping for. So it's good in general. I'm kind of salty about him, just like going away during the bear, but I think it's good in general for the market. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely kind of weird that he disappeared, but hey, he's like the Avatar. When we need him most, he'll come back. One other collection for you, Ryan H. I definitely think Creature World could be an interesting one. Saw some people talking about that before. Shout out to Van Squeeb, but I know that was a project that Gary V had some pretty deep bags in, so definitely would not be surprised if that one goes well. That one's beaten down pretty aggressively, so could be a fun scrape. All right. But I think that just about wraps it up for NFTs. If there's anything else, Jake, that you have, but other than that, there's another topic that I think is top of mind share for sure, which is Fartcoin. And never thought I would ever say that, but here we are. Fartcoin on a historic tear and flipped goat. Jake, what are we thinking about it?
Yeah, I don't own any Fartcoin, but I did want to talk about it because it's like my number one thing that I want to buy right now with profits on like a DCA. The more I like see stuff about it, the more bullish I get on it. It's just it's like it's just funny because it's just so dumb that I think it works. And that it's just called fart coin, and it's like it's very memeable, obviously, to everyone. Like it's something you don't have to explain at all to anyone, normies. And there's like the aspect of it can be popular on both the left curve and the right curve. When the bell curve memes, where left curve it's just like it's funny, it's fart coin, hot air rises, which is a great slogan. Like every coin has a slogan. Like he has done pretty good, I feel like. I mean, whiff was like the dog has a hat, hot air rises. But also on the right curve, it's like an AI meme, right? The goat was originally gonna come out with this fart coin, but instead they went with a goat one instead. Um, so the fact that it was kind of derived um, via AIs, like kind of helps with the right curve side of thinking, and I've just seen so much about it, like so much cope I would say, about it from like TradFi people who are like, "This is so dumb. Look at this fart coin thing." The price keeps going up. Like it just makes me want to buy more and more. Um, the more I see that, and I just see a lot of big whales in it. I see a lot of really good traders. Um, in Fartcoin, and I think it's like it's so dumb, but also like right curve enough with the AI factor that it really could do some pretty crazy stuff in the bull. So I again I literally don't own a penny of this, but I'm like actively looking to buy. I'm hoping there's gonna be a dip tomorrow with the Pengu stuff since Fartcoin's on Sol that I could get into.
He doesn't own a single toot, folks, but he's definitely interested. And yeah, dude, I mean, it's a crazy trade, and I definitely was like mid curving it for a while. I think I wrote a couple of longs on it and just swing traded it. I never thought it was going to flip goat. Never thought that it was going to be close to $1 billion market cap, but completely agree. I mean, it's just something that's like so dumb that I think it makes sense. And it's almost similar to the point of like people bringing Doge close to $1 a few years ago just because it's like funny and it's easy to buy. Like I think as soon as that gets posted on Coinbase and Robinhood, it's just gonna be something that people think is so funny and leg into it. I mean, I know so many people when Pepe first came out because that was one of the first major meme coins to really like do the thing. People were always just talking about how it was overpriced and overvalued, and to your point, that just sent it so much higher. So, yeah, it is just like a perfect coin in terms of it just being fart coin. Simple as that. Nothing else to say about it. It just is what it is, and I mean, we've seen that play out with something like puppets, right? Like they are just funny because it's the art is like objectively so bad that it's good. So I think fart coin is just like so stupid that it makes too much sense.
Yeah, I've seen now like enough of like mind share of it now where I like feel comfortable even though the price obviously has gone up a lot. I feel more comfortable like allocating towards it where it's like okay, this is like I don't think this is going anywhere. Like I've seen probably like 4 or 5 different posts from like TradFi, like bigger TradFi accounts just like coping just like meanwhile in like crypto this is what they're pumping. It's like Fartcoin is like 80 I don't even remember like I forgot what the company they compared it to. It was like Fartcoin's like 80% of the value of like I don't even know. I don't like Microsoft or I don't think it was Microsoft, but it like another some big company or whatever. Um it's just funny. And I actually just saw like people from like I play a lot of like DFS, daily fantasy sports, and like it's just a very anecdotal thing. But one of the guys on there who's like not even in crypto at all was just like shilling Fartcoin, just like hot air rises by Fartcoin. So that made me bullish because it's just some random dude who's not even in crypto and he loves it because he just thinks it's funny.
Yeah, if we crypto people needed anything else to alienate us from normal people, it is Fartcoin. But I totally agree, dude. I think it's so funny and fun. So definitely looking for a nice dip to rip, something like that. I don't know, but yeah, hot air definitely rises. So I'm glad we touched on that today, and it's just so fun this period of crypto that we're in. I want to keep going here with the agenda and shout out to Jake here. You know, this is my first time co-hosting with him on this show, and he prepares a nice little agenda, folks. He does the research. He's got a clipboard and everything. So shout out to that. But we got Hype here, Hyper Liquid, and that was obviously just a monstrous airdrop, and it just continues to melt faces. What are your thoughts here on Hype Token?
Yeah, I just want to shout it out because I feel like we haven't talked about it enough. I'm more so I think a token. I also don't own like any hype. I'm definitely coping from not buying. I've literally watched it. I literally use. I'm so mad actually. I literally used Hyperliquid like a year ago or like I don't even know when it first came out, like 9 or 10 months ago, and I got liquidated on like a long or that wasn't on any other platform. Like the price didn't go that low. It was only on Hyperliquid, so I was pissed and I was like, this platform sucks. And I just didn't use it again. But if that didn't happen and if everything went normal for me, then I probably would have just kept using it because I thought it was cool. Like I love having a decentralized perp index because I trade perps. Um, anyway, I'm just coping because I would have probably made like 7 figures from the airdrop if I would have just kept using it and I didn't get liquidated on that long. But is what it is. I do think it's I do see like so many smart traders on this, and it's certainly pumped a lot. I don't know if I'm really trying to buy at these prices. I think you could get you there might be like a decent dip in the meantime. Maybe there's not. Maybe it just keeps going parabolic. Um, but in general, I just think like the ecosystem's one to watch. There's a lot of shitter plays over there right now. I know like shitcoin chat's been into it. There's like this hyper fun bot. And I've been kind of out of the loop a bit with getting back from my honeymoon and stuff. As this is a relatively new thing, so I'm a little behind. But I know there's like this hyper fun bot or whatever where people are trying to snipe like new launches and like buying up new launches in hopes that they migrate because Hyper Liquid has like this unique coin launch mechanism where I believe only one new coin can like officially launch. So, someone correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it's like every like 30 hours or 33 hours or something like that. So there's a lot fewer coins over there, and people have to like kind of compete and like buy up um, a certain amount of capital of this coin before it to like officially migrate, if you will. Again, someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that's essentially what I understand from looking into it a little bit. But I just wanted to point that out because a lot of them have been like really insane cooks, like 1000x type stuff. Um, so I think it's worth putting on people's radar. But I don't have like a ton of detail. I haven't delved in too much.
Yeah, that's a great shout, Jake, and you are completely correct. I was looking into it for the first time last night and saw some similar details that there's not a lot of coins that come out, and it's an auction-based system, or at least that's what they call it. That's their version of the bonding curve. And I've seen some interesting threads on Twitter. There's one guy who says he's bought every single Hyperliquid token just because you can like rebrand the tokens and repurpose them because there's so few. So it reminds me a lot of nouns back in the day where it was just every day there was one new noun released and they got to some crazy value. So I do like the fact that it kind of funnels the attention on a token. And if you wait for stuff to be, auctioned or basically bonded over to Hyperliquid, it's very easy to see where the attention's at and you can get some early winners there. Um, I am curious to see how long it lasts. I think with Hyper being this parabolic in terms of just the hype token, it's a great place to look. I am a little cautious just because we've seen stuff like trading on Tron before, where things pump dramatically for like a week or two, and then people kind of go back to the common chains that they're on, and usually don't see a ton of traffic over on Arbitrum. But this could be the time. So a great shout out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I had. That's all I had on that.
All right. Well, we're closing out on our final topic for today. And as always, if anyone has anything else they want to bring up that we haven't discussed, feel free. But we have AI agents listed as the final topic, which is something that I wanted to sprinkle into today's show. Jake, any thoughts on AI agents here or any projects, coins that are top of mind for you?
Um, yeah, I'll say I did want to point out I've been talking a lot on past ones. One of my favorites is AI XBT. Just given like it provides extremely valuable information on Twitter and it has a terminal. Um, but it just released it like there was a lot of question marks from people about like is this even like a real AI? Is this like someone just like posting about it? But they released like their backrooms data and stuff, like basically proving that it is real AI. Um, so I think that was very bullish for AI XBT. Um, so I just want to point that part out, and then I still like NFT XBT too. As a play, it's like very similar, but NFT, and it's founder of FX Hash, which is a popular marketplace for like I think it was like the main marketplace for like Tezos art and stuff like that. And they're building this other one that's supposed to be similar to AI XBT, but obviously just NFT focused. So I just want to call those two out, but mainly wanted to let you run with it, Ross, as I know you're deep in these AI streets.
Appreciate it, dude. And yeah, I've definitely been deep in the AI streets lately. I just think it's such a good play. And mindshare for projects like AIXBT, as you mentioned, are just like all-time highs, continue to increase. I know I was pinging you about it earlier in the week, but this place Cookies has a really good dashboard on just AI mindshare. So I think that's a great place. And let me just get a link for that really quickly so I can share that with everybody here. Not to be confused with the weed brand Cookies. Let me pull this up here. But while I'm pulling that up, I really am just continuing to see and suspect that AI agents are just going to be a huge play this cycle. You're seeing just some really notable Twitter accounts talk about it and share their sentiment. If you're someone who doesn't want to be as active in trading the AI agents, because honestly, there is like just a lot of new projects that come out and a lot of, I would say, research lightly, but like there genuinely is some research to be done on some of these projects to find out if they're legit or not. But I personally really love just the virtual ecosystem play. It seems like things on virtual ecosystem, specifically AIXBT, are just really capturing mind share. And virtual has been partnering with a ton of other protocols and a ton of other companies that are developing AI to continue to integrate with their website. So for me, this is just extremely bullish. They're going to be working on developing AI swarms. I've mentioned this before on the AI episode of Boss Dogs that we did, but AI swarms are basically the concept of multiple agents interacting with one another. So they're beginning to develop that infrastructure. But right now, Virtuals, I believe, is a little over 2 billion, maybe it's $2.8 billion market cap. But I just think that's going to be cheap compared to what we're going to be seeing. I just dropped in voice hangout chat cookie.fun, by the way, which is that um, dashboard that I was mentioning. But yeah, I just think this play on virtual ecosystem is such an easy buy and hold. With Pengu coming out, we have seen a lot of AI agents kind of get a pullback over the last couple of days. But I think this is an amazing time to buy the dip if you're bullish any of these projects. I really think that, and again, I've seen this from some big accounts talking about it. 2025 could be the year of the utility play. Some of the leaders of AI agents are really the ones that have been developing working products and platforms. So again, going back to AIXBT, it actually has a large accumulation of crypto data that it's pulling from, and it actually has this agent that's offering insights and terminal access. So it is a utility token. You also see stuff like Griffin, which has been absolutely tearing it up for the last couple of weeks. That's pretty much supposed to be like a swap bot or just a general purpose tool. You could almost look at it as like ChatGPT for crypto, where you can say, hey, I want to exchange Fartcoin for this NFT. And it could sell the NFT for you, purchase Fartcoin, all that stuff, all with just a string of text. So the use cases that they're developing for this AI is just going to continue to evolve and get better and better. I will say the space has gotten more difficult just even over the past week. There's plenty of LARPs. So LARPs are just people who are pretending, and you'll see a lot of projects that have like elaborate websites. They make it look like this is a sophisticated AI agent, and then it just ends up being either a reskin of something that's already existed or just completely fake. So be on the lookout for those. I think the stuff that we're seeing is just going to continue to be spread thin, right? Like we're going to see way more imposters and stuff, but the products that have proven to be real, stuff like AIXBT, other bots and other new use cases that come out, I think those are just amazing swing trades because it's like the perfect investment for a VC company, right? Their crypto is going to be so hot with Bitcoin and all these coins coming out. And now you're talking about actual technology and actual companies that have real potential for revenue streams. I'm just as bullish as ever on all this stuff. Last night I woke up in the middle of the night and like couldn't sleep. I just kept thinking about virtuals and just put on my biggest position that I have to date. Just straight virtuals. I just really want to hold it for a year and see what happens. But yeah, I just can rant about this stuff forever and so quickly because it's just in my mind such a huge value. So really encourage you guys. There's a great dip across the board on Solana AI agents right now with Pengu. I'm sure that'll continue going into tomorrow, but if the tech is there, I would buy the dip personally.
Yeah, I always love your insight into this stuff. I know I'm like trying to learn more and more myself. It's hard to keep up with everything though. There's like a new like really cool one launching every single day. Um, I'm curious, Ross, if you have any the people always love the high risk reward stuff. Do you have any like lower cap ones that have piqued your interest?
Yeah, I have a couple. Let me just pull up my Phantom wallet here. I can share out some things that I'm in. Um, so from the top, I really like this AI rig complex ARC.
Oh
This one
yeah.
kind of came out of nowhere, and I mean this isn't like super low cap stuff yet, but it's on a nice pullback. It was close to 160 mil, I want to say 2 days ago, and now it's, I want to say like 95 mil. But people didn't really know what this was when it first launched, but it's a really smart concept. They're basically just building a framework on Rust to have LLM enabled applications. Since they've released it, the number of commits to their GitHub has been, I want to say, like the fastest growing other than virtuals. So a ton of people have been using Arc to build applications. And I specifically think with building frameworks and infrastructure for AI, that's where you can get these really nice swing trades and feel comfortable holding. It's not as much upside as some other projects, but like it's pretty safe upside in my opinion. Like I think the hardest part is finding a project that is built out enough where you can feel comfortable holding it and still has that upside. But something like Arc, I think, could easily be $1 billion market cap, so still a 10x potential. Moving down the list, FXN, they are an AI swarm company. Essentially, they're trying to develop nicer ways to make swarms, and they're trying to work on a marketplace to integrate your AI agent into other people's models. So the best example I can have of this is like, if you have a sports betting agent and all it does is play sports bets, that's great. It has specialized knowledge on sports betting, but you're going to also want to have a banking functionality for your AI agent so it can handle all these bets and make sure people get made whole. But if you're a sports betting agent and you just built this, you might not want to spend your time building out a banking feature because that's sort of a separate functionality. So rather than doing that, you could integrate with an AI agent that specifically deals with banking and get the utility from that other agent. So this ability to sort of borrow utility from other agents and have them combine into a better working application is a really fascinating concept and has a lot of potential for infrastructure. So that's FXN. They're on a nice dip here. I think that's a pretty good upside. Also, Realist Worlds, they're building a scale model of the Earth in Minecraft. That was at about 100 mil. Now it's down to like 24 mil. I think that's a great dip buy opportunity. Other than that, I think Griffin is probably the biggest one to shout out just because Solana Labs is directly calling them out a lot. They were almost at 400 mil and now they're down to close to 200 mil. So like some really good 50% retracements here. There's just so many cool, interesting products. I don't have anything like other than those top of mind. I also just like am careful shilling AI stuff because it can get outdated so quickly. And like I've just already seen stuff that I was super bullish on become irrelevant the next day. So I definitely think just searching specifically for mindshare projects and infrastructure is like huge. There is actually one final project, and I'm just short of breath because I'm like excitedly talking loud and fast. But over on Virtual's network, there is this token SQDGN, which is DGen Squid. And this plays, in my mind, one of the highest risk reward opportunities in the AI agent space right now. Essentially, there is this company SQD, which is self-described as a data lake. And they have one of the largest accumulations of on-chain data available, and they've spent years accumulating this data. They absolutely fumbled the ball about a week ago. Their co-founder of the project launched this virtuals agent, didn't make an announcement about it or anything, but was liking posts confirming that he released it. People speculated, and DGen Squid went to like a $15 million market cap. People bought in. The company SQD that owns the data lake, they made an official announcement the next day being like, hey, we just want to clear this up. We're not going to do anything with this agent. It was just a fun experiment for us. And people panicked, and it went from $15 million to like a 1 million market cap pretty much instantly. It just absolutely nuked. And people were just like completely pissed, sold it. A lot of people lost a lot of money. So people were not happy with the project. But the founder said he's very remorseful. They took a airdrop or what is it? Screenshot of all the holders. But since then, they've kind of backpedaled and they're like, hey, we take it back. We're not going to release another agent. This is it. This is going to be the one we're going to use. So you have this data lake, again, a huge accumulation of crypto data. And then you have this guy who's built this company who is now saying DGen Squid is the one agent. We're going to ride with this. So since then, it's rebounded to I think the high yesterday was like 7 mil market cap. I'm not sure what it's at right now, but it's bouncing between like 7 and 3 mil. There's not a ton of holders for it, but I think this could genuinely be the next AI XBT potentially. It just has so much upside with all of that data, because that sort of data set that's tailored specifically to crypto, they could ramp up just like the hardest hitting agent we've seen to date. So it is somewhat speculative, but in terms of risk reward, it's at like 7 mil. So really good chance for a 10 to 20 to 30x from here.
Wonderful breakdown, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sorry for always like going on into detail, dude. I just like spend way too much fucking time looking at this stuff.
No, I love it. I like getting into a nice rant myself. Just going down constantly. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I want to open up. We're already like 20 minutes over the hour mark here. Anything else that you guys want to talk about AI agents or any topics that we didn't cover? Sweet. Yeah, that was it for me. Wanted to give a reminder, MVHQ or HQ community round deadline today. So definitely fill that out if you want more info. Hit up Mitch, hit up Jacob. They can certainly help you out. There's a community round form to get more info there. Also more info in HQ announcements. Super excited stuff, man. Really pumped about that. And also, we just had a new mission go live as well for on brand the penguin holders. Pudgy's little rods as well to get some extra bonus points for farming.
Dude, huge shout out there. And as Cap's pointing out, and Charity got a nice mission there for giving
Yep.
back. So always good to do something nice during the holiday season.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Jake, this has been an awesome episode, dude. There's so much going on in the market, and let's tune into VC tomorrow, folks. We got probably the biggest
yeah.
airdrop we've seen all year, and we've had some huge airdrops. So let's get in VC tomorrow and chat up Pengu, everything else. As a final announcement, Boss Dogs is going to be canceled today. I know WAF is out doing some IRL stuff, so we'll circle back on that later in the week. But this has been so much fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. VC for sure tomorrow for Penguins. Great shout. Even today, I mean, hey, let's chop it up. I'll be around.
You heard him, folks. He's back from the honeymoon, and he's ready to get back into the trenches.
Oh yeah, I do gotta probably get some food right now, but obviously you guys can keep chopping it up. We can end it here though. Thank you, Ross, for subbing in here. Great job as always. Thank you for everyone in the community for chipping into Aslo Ranch. Appreciate y'all.
Yep. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Yep.